Well, good morning. It's so great to see you all here. It's such a pleasure to get a chance to actually meet with members face to face, and then also we have a large contingency of the programming team that's here as well. And we work out remotely, so it's really fun to actually get a chance to spend some time with these guys as well. And there's been a lot of good meetings. I know you guys had some good meetings yesterday, and we do have a few guests that. And appreciate you guys being here and potential new members taking a look at us, and hopefully you guys could make some good use of your time yesterday as well. So IntelliCAD at 20. I don't know how many of you realize that we're celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the first release of IntelliCAD. And IntelliCAD was first released by Vizio in March of 1998. So yes, it was Vizio Corporation that originally released IntelliCAD. And it was the company that also made the diagramming product that was required by Microsoft. And I know it's a bit confusing, and IntelliCAD does have a colorful history. So let's go through, and I'm going to do a brief review of the IntelliCAD history and how Vizio came to be with IntelliCAD and what made our business model today. So as with any large product, development starts years before the first release, and that was also the case for IntelliCAD. The product was first started in '94 by Sofdesk, and at that time Sofdesk was Autodesk's largest third-party developer. However, Sofdesk felt that Autodesk was really a risk for their business, and so really becoming a threat, and they started to work on IntelliCAD to give themselves an optional development platform if they should need it. And the product was outsourced to another third-party developer in San Diego called Boomerang Technologies. And it was headed by Mike Bailey, who had also created Autodesk's advanced data extension called ADE. 2 years later, as Autodesk looks to acquire Sofdesk, Sofdesk needed to divest themselves of IntelliCAD. I'm sure it was really interesting at that time when Sofdesk was looking at being acquired by Autodesk, and they had this product that was an AutoCAD competitor. And so, during the due diligence, I'm sure this caused problems with the Sofdesk acquisition, and Sofdesk was really looking to unload IntelliCAD to its creators in San Diego, Boomerang Technologies. So 6 months later, Autodesk acquires Sofdesk for $72 million. And during the acquisition, Autodesk tries to kill the sale of IntelliCAD because they want that technology. But the US Federal Trade Commission steps in, and Autodesk is seen as a CAD monopoly, and blocking the sale of IntelliCAD is anti-competitive. So Autodesk is forced to let Boomerang Technologies acquire IntelliCAD. Now, Sofdesk was right to really be concerned about Autodesk's intentions, but since they were acquired, they're the ones who really dodged the bullet. However, when Autodesk acquired Sofdesk, it sent shockwaves through the entire CAD industry as all AutoCAD AEC third-party developers suddenly became Autodesk competitors. These companies spent years developing the AEC market for AutoCAD, and now Autodesk would swoop in, acquire one of the AEC third-party companies, and then kick all the others to the curb. And this was the first mature vertical market developed by a third-party developer that Autodesk would assimilate, but there would be several more in the future. Two months later, Vizio acquires Boomerang Technology for $6.7 million and retains ownership of IntelliCAD. And really, this is a smart acquisition by Vizio. At that time, there were already billions of DWG files, and the only one viable product for editing them was AutoCAD. And AutoCAD users were already pretty grumpy with Autodesk pricing and their business practices, and an alternate editor was being really well received. 30 days later, Autodesk and Sofdesk settled the FTC lawsuit. So the Federal Trade Commission, when Autodesk lost their case with the Federal Trade Commission, this was a major benefit for Vizio, as IntelliCAD was now under the protection of the FTC, and Autodesk could not pursue any additional lawsuits or any kind of legal action against IntelliCAD for the next 10 years. And this was really a critical point, and it was just the kind of protection that was needed as Vizio pushed to OpenDWG format of AutoCAD. Then in January 1998, Vizio acquires MarkHome. And this is the company that created AutoDirect. And AutoDirect is a set of libraries that read and write DWG files. And this is the core piece of technology that is used by IntelliCAD to read and write DWG files. And this is really the key to compatibility in IntelliCAD. Then 30 days later, Vizio forms a nonprofit cooperative called the OpenDWG Alliance and gives them a perpetual license to the AutoDirect libraries. And this is a real critical point in our story, okay? Vizio takes what I kind of consider the family jewels. This is the core DWG read-write library that is really crucial to IntelliCAD and its future success, and it spins it off into an open source consortium to unleash DWG compatibility on the world. Okay, this is really a bold, competitive move against Autodesk, and Vizio very carefully sets up the Open Design Alliance's corporate structure and bylaws to protect the ODA. So without the right protections in place, really no company would have worked with the Open Design Alliance because everybody knew that it had a huge target on its back. Autodesk was really focused on the ODA. So to protect this asset, Vizio formed the Open Design Alliance as an open source, nonprofit consortium that is democratically directed by its members. The bylaws are set up so that it's very difficult for any single entity to acquire or kill the cooperative, and as it takes 80% of a vote of all members to approve an acquisition. So it was unlikely that it would ever be acquired. In addition, the bylaws were set up to provide a perpetual license to all active members should the cooperative be dissolved. So, for example, let's say somebody tries to sue the ODA out of existence. Autodesk comes after them, they try to sue them. All the active founding members receive a perpetual license to continue to use the OpenDWG source. And this is called a poison pill setup in the bylaws, which discourages any company from attacking the ODA, as it would simply spread the source and compound the problem further. So Vizio's thoughtful formation of the Open Design Alliance and then winning the settlement with the FTC gave the OpenDWG Alliance the protection it needed from a very, very angry Autodesk. Then 1 month later, IntelliCAD 98 ships in March of 1998. And this was really a highly anticipated, highly publicized release. Vizio did a great job on the marketing side, but the product was still pretty weak. It was not really quite ready yet. There were a lot of bugs, but the market was excited, and the idea of an AutoCAD clone was well received, and users and third-party developers were really excited to see where this whole thing was going to go. In addition, which is interesting, is that IntelliCAD was the first AutoCAD clone to release with the new OpenDWG libraries, demonstrating what could be done with the OpenDWG libraries. As interest in IntelliCAD grew, Vizio acquired several different CAD technologies related to IntelliCAD development, and I was actually part of one of those acquisitions with Cative Technologies. And although I had already worked on IntelliCAD's solutions for a couple of years as they were doing the development on it, I was now actually a part of Vizio, and I was working on IntelliCAD and Vizio then from the inside. So then in December of 1998, Vizio announced licensing IntelliCAD as a CAD platform for solutions development. And Vizio had cloned the AutoCAD development system, the ADS development system, which is a C API, and had it running inside of IntelliCAD, so the developers could easily just take code that was built for AutoCAD and recompile it and have it running in IntelliCAD. It really worked well. They also had, in addition, they had support for Autolist, for VB and VBA, and with the release of these APIs, Vizio was really eager to work with the third parties to develop vertical solutions on the CAD platform. Meanwhile, Autodesk is making some of its own news with its own announcement of a new technical diagramming product called Actrix. So Actrix is basically a Vizio clone, and they're going after and attacking Vizio now with their own product, their own diagramming product. And the war really is starting to begin to grow between Vizio and Autodesk. is starting to really intensify. Then 7 months later, Vizio announces that it has spun out IntelliCAD into a nonprofit consortium similar to the Open Design Alliance, and it's called the IntelliCAD Technology Consortium. That's us, the ITC. And as Vizio insider who was working on IntelliCAD, this was really a complete surprise. It was really odd because Vizio at that point had put like $25 million into IntelliCAD. There were several additional acquisitions on top of that, plus there's over 200 man-years of development. And now they were taking IntelliCAD and they were spinning it out into this open consortium, and development on IntelliCAD internally was starting to slow down, and they were using those resources more on Vizio diagramming. So it was very confusing. The good news about the way the consortium was set up is that the thoughtful work that had been done to the Open Design Alliance bylaws and corporate infrastructure was all duplicated for the IntelliCAD consortium. So we were two sister organizations, open source consortiums. One was for the core read and write libraries, and one was for the user interface. So the ODA was the read-write libraries, the ITC was the user interface. And when you put the two together, then you had the pieces to build a really powerful DWG-compatible AutoCAD clone. And although I was totally confused by this move of why Vizio would divest themselves of IntelliCAD at that point, I would quickly learn in a couple months exactly what was going on. So a couple months later, it's announced that Microsoft acquires Vizio for $1.3 billion. And during the Vizio acquisition, Vizio divested themselves of products that really didn't fit the Microsoft business user persona. Even several of the more technical drawing features in Vizio would be removed because really there was no place for an unestablished technical CAD product like IntelliCAD at Microsoft. They were trying to sell to the Office users, and there was really no place for technical products in the Microsoft Office team. Also, I believe that the move to get rid of IntelliCAD was to really kind of ease the war with Autodesk. I think that Microsoft wanted to call a truce to the war that Vizio had started with Autodesk, and later Autodesk would end development on its Vizio clone, Atrix, and the two giants would just separate and focus on their main markets. Microsoft would focus on business diagramming, and Autodesk would focus on technical applications. So I really don't think anyone expected the ITC really, or the ODA to have much of an impact on the, because our business models were really kind of limited, being consortiums, open source, funded by our members. We were really limited of what we could do. So what is this new entity that's called the ITC? Although the ITC was created by a powerful company, and then they were acquired by really the most powerful software company at that time, which was Microsoft, the ITC was basically abandoned as Microsoft moved on to diagramming. A few IntelliCAD loyalists that remained at Microsoft tried to help keep ITC moving forward, but soon all support would dry up and the ITC was basically on its own. So at this point, what is the ITC? And what are our dependencies? The ITC corporate structure and bylaws are duplicated from the Open Design Alliance. So we really copied their corporate template. And let's kind of examine again more closely, as this really shaped the ITC's business model, which is the same business model that we have today. So we are a nonprofit. We're a member-directed cooperative. We can only be acquired by if 80% of our members approve it. If we are dissolved, then the active members receive a perpetual license to all of our source code. We do have some dependencies. Since our core rewrite functionality was given to the ODA, we have always been dependent on them to deliver that component. And today, the ODA libraries are more solid than ever, but there were times when that dependency actually was pretty scary to have that dependency with the ODA. In addition, we're dependent on members for our revenue and leadership. And at some points, this has also been a weakness as we cannot go outside of the members for additional funding because we have no way really to secure it. Typically, if you need additional funding for your corporate efforts, you would go through and you'd secure that through an individual loan, or you'd sell, shares. But we don't have shares. We don't have shareholders. We don't have a single entity that can guarantee a loan, and so we only can work with the funds that we have available that that come through our membership. We're also not allowed to compete with our members, so we can't really sell end-user products to supplement our income. So we're really stuck with just the income that we receive from our members. So bottom line, what we are is we are a creator of technology for our members, and we're dependent on them for funding and leadership, and the ODA, we're depending on the ODA as well for our core DWG compatibility. So IntelliCAD is a cooperative. I mean, what is a cooperative? Often people think of the ITC as being kind of this weird socialist organization, but really it's a democratic capitalism organization really at its best. And I prefer democratic capitalism over totalitarian capitalism, and that's where companies can monopolize by seizing absolute control of all the fundamental resources and then exclude anyone that it wants to from their ability to work with that product. And it's interesting because this is the direction that Autodesk has gone with being a totalitarian capitalism product. So what is our purpose? Really the bottom line is we don't make a profit for shareholders. We are here really to create intellectual property and services that are valuable to our members. We work for you guys. So what have we been up to? Well, this is really what we've been up to over the last 20 years is creating intellectual property. So we've been creating and improving IntelliCAD and also providing services for our members. We're not selling end-user products. We're not competing with our members. We're not making a profit because we have no shareholders to distribute that profit to. In 20 years, we've created 23 major releases in IntelliCAD. And if you look at the major plus minor releases, we have shipped over 36 releases. So we've been busy. And on top of that, several years were spent refactoring our core completely. Basically, we rewrote IntelliCAD while continuing to improve the engine with multiple releases over these years. And really, this was quite an impressive accomplishment because many companies who attempt this kind of a major rewrite almost always fail. For us, it was also difficult because we had to build a new product with no additional funding. So most companies would require additional investment to work on a project like this. The ITC had to work within our existing membership. So it's pretty challenging. So here's a few statistics to ponder. 20,000 bugs, 100,000 revisions, 270 billion regression tests, 1.2 million crash dumps. A source download is over 25 gigabytes, over 50 million directly invested. And so today, when you get an ITC membership and you pay the $30,000 a year, what you're getting is over 500 man years of development that's been going on over the last 20 years. So have we been successful? Well, yes and no. I guess it depends on who you ask. So yes, IntelliCAD has really created a great foundation for many companies to build successful businesses. IntelliCAD's not a huge brand name, but you have heard of brands that are either ITC members or alumni. Companies like AcCAD, ProjectCAD, CADopia, Cadian, FrameCAD, Microsurvey, DWG Editor, Carlson, BlueCAD, TrueCAD, AutoDesys, WriteCAD, WebCAD, ArcadiaSoft, CAD Project, YFCAD, CAD Multiplus, A+CAD, FastPlan, CMS, StabbyCAD, ZWCAD, BetoCAD, BricsNet, BricsCAD, GStarCAD, Back2CAD, Dimension 4, and even TurboCAD from IMSI. The ITC helped launch an entire industry of DWG editors that compete with Autodesk. And then, as you remember, our sister organization, the OpenDWG Alliance, that's the other company we talked about earlier, the open source consortium also that develops the read-write libraries for DWG. Well, the ODAs, TIGA libraries, have grown to be basically the de facto standard for any non-AutoCAD DWG editor, and they currently have over 1,000 members. So yes, IntelliCAD's had a big impact on the whole CAD industry, and yet many people, and particularly the press, will tell you that we've not been that successful. We're certainly not as successful as our members. And they will try to tell you that we don't compete well because member products have more features. But to me, this is just really a lack of understanding of our business model. First off, we don't sell any end-user products, so we don't compete with our members. In addition, we give all of our members our source code so that they can then build on top of what we provide. So yes, if they're doing any kind of value add at all, they will always have more features than the ITC's IntelliCAD. Our purpose is to make technology and services that make our members successful, and many of them have been successful. Still, we really could have accomplished a lot more over the last 20 years if we had leveraged our business model and worked more closely together. So is our cooperative business model still viable? So that's a good question. But today the ITC is growing. Revenue from membership services grew 19% in 2017, and it should grow even higher in 2018. Our core team is now about 45 people. Developers have an average of 7 years of experience with IntelliCAD, our internal team, and we're currently interviewing for 20 open developer positions. We have excellent leadership from our current crop of officers, and the ODA libraries are extremely compatible with DWG, and they're growing with new APIs and support for new object enablers and CAD formats in each release. And I think our business model is really more relevant than ever. New and old members alike are really understanding the advantages of a cooperative, and we're seeing more and more members really embracing it. Earlier we discussed about how the ITC as a cooperative is a model of democratic capitalism, and we reviewed that business model a little bit so you kind of have an understanding of what that's like. And alternatively, Autodesk and AutoCAD is an example of totalitarian capitalism, and I just want to spend a minute and kind of discuss what that looks like. So totalitarian capitalism is where a company can monopolize by seizing an absolute control over fundamental resources and then exclude anybody that it desires. And the Autodesk acquisition was just the start for Autodesk. Over the last 20 years, Autodesk has acquired or created solutions in every vertical space where third parties had developed a solid market. Over 200 products today. Once a new market was developed, Autodesk would swoop in, assimilate that market, and then reap the profits. Then force out the third-party developers who are now their competitors. And how do you force out your third-party developers who are a competitor? It's really easy when you own the platform that they just base their business off of. Today, Autodesk is looking for any avenue to increase revenue and keep Wall Street happy. They're trapping users in subscription, they're taking large corporate accounts from dealers, they're forcing dealers to sell their product suites and forbidding dealers from selling competitive products. With users on automatic subscription updates, it makes it really difficult for third parties to keep their solutions running, especially if Autodesk removes them from their Autodesk Developer Network program. These behaviors kill competition and really stifle innovation, and it makes our cooperative business model look really attractive. After 20 years of anti-competitive behavior from Autodesk, people are finally starting to understand the benefits of the ITC consortium. So I want to say thanks to you members out there who have really believed in the ITC business model and sustained us all these years, and really for giving me the opportunity to serve with you. Imagine what might have been if you had not supported the ODA and the ITC and where the CAD industry would be today. How many other companies would have been crushed by the wheels of Autodesk's totalitarian capitalism if the alternative products based on the ODA and ITC never existed? Without the competitive DWG development platforms created through the ODA and ITC, I believe that Autodesk would have destroyed all competition. So thank you for these 20 years. And although we've had an interesting and colorful past, I believe that with the strength of our cooperative, we're going to have an even more interesting next 20 years. So over the next couple days, you'll get a chance to see the new features in IntelliCAD in this next new release, IntelliCAD 9. And we'll also look at opportunities for future releases. In addition, you'll get a chance to see what the ODA is up to, the Open Design Alliance, our sister organization. They'll show you what they've currently released and where they're headed in the future as well. So there's a lot of opportunities, some that we know you already want to implement, and then there's going to be a lot of others that we're going to need your help in determining the direction and to help us set our priorities. If you remember, I want you to just remind you that the folks you meet from the ITC, they work for you, and the features that you see were requested by you, and the development was funded by you. So ask them to get the help that you need, and in addition, I want to encourage you to challenge us if you have ideas about new or improved processes that you want to see that we can add that will better serve your needs in the future. So, thank you.